Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video, and of course this video is sponsored by Rivalry.gg, the channel sponsor. If you go down there and you use the referral code RLS, you'll qualify for $350 of special benefits on the website, and of course you'll be telling them that you came from my channel and helping the channel out. So today's video I'm going to be talking about the ugly spectre of match fixing raising its head again, this time in ESEA. We talked a little bit about this on the episode of By the Numbers that I think should have come out by the time you're watching this video. And, you know, look, I've said this for a long period of time. Match fixing is something that's never fully going to go away in sports, let alone within esports. This latest kind of revelation doesn't surprise me at all. I've said for a long period of time, match fixing, we've beaten it, I think, at the highest level because the money that's coming into CSGO is so high. The idea that people are going to throw away $25,000 a month salaries to make a little bit of money on the side is ridiculous. Most high-level pros compete in high-level tournaments with huge prize funds, lots of scrutiny. It's not worth throwing a match at a major, is it, when you would get the odds? It's not worth throwing to an underdog. And thanks to things like the Esports Integrity Coalition, ESEA, and that all of the legitimate betting companies, of course, of which Rivalry.gg is one, they look at betting patterns and they now come forward and they tell people about the betting patterns. So it's incredibly ridiculous to think it's going on in Tier 1, even Tier 2. But once we start crawling down, and we get to the more amateur, semi-pro, complete amateur levels of Counter-Strike, unfortunately, we do still have match fixing going on, as was proven by ESEA. Now, I've got their statement here so we can talk about the players and who it was. This was literally from the 24th. It says here, earlier this season, we became suspicious of a team's behavior during matches, but lacked any evidence to suggest the users were acting in a malicious manner. ESEA during the playoffs was reached out to by an esports bookmaker, GGBet, who they've been in the headlines for other less palatable reasons. If you go on the Dota 2 subreddit, I was almost contemplating making a video about that. I still might. I think it's important to document these things. But it says here, in regards to irregularities in bets placed. So in other words, this is now great because all the bettors, all the books are talking to each other, talking to the leagues, perhaps even talking to Valve, talking to the developers. And when odds are skewed wildly and big bets come in, whoever's placing them, now we're going to start finding out why. In August, the information provided indicated that long-standing MDL players Loic Efis Sauvageau, sorry, my bad, and Victor Cardiac Kwan both had family members placing bets against their own team in the matches in the MDL division. Based on the information that was provided and after careful investigation by ESEA staff, we have come to the conclusion that the players were placing bets on their own matches and using their family members' information to bypass fraud filters, or they were posting bets on behalf of their family members. After correlating the information we received with our own, we have established a clear timeline of events that transpired. We have found out that Better Number 1, a relative of Sauvageau, had been placing bets from the same residential IP as Sauvageau was playing his matches from. Seems like an absolute ridiculous oversight to even do that. And think that that wouldn't come out. Okay. At the time of Better Number 1 placing bets, Better Number 2, a relative of Kwan, would then mirror any bet placed by Better Number 1. Betters 1 and 2 also only placed bets in this specific market, MDL matches. So in other words, to give you a broader understanding of what that means and why that's relevant, they only bet on the matches that the players, the relatives, wink wink, were playing in. In other words, they weren't CS enthusiasts. They didn't bet on esports. They didn't bet on Counter-Strike matches. They only bet on these specific MDL matches that just so happened to have their relatives playing in. This information clearly suggests that the bettor number one, a family member, was placing bets on behalf of Savageau, or Savageau was logging in directly and placing the bets himself. It also shows that Kwan was taking the same actions, once again attempting to avoid the fraud filters. As a result of this investigation, the ESEA is placing a year ban on Effis and Cardiac for a gambling violation. The team's roster has also been removed from the MDL division. At this time, we do not have conclusive evidence to suggest that the entire team was involved, and as a result, the other players on the roster have not been banned. The team's slot in the MDL division will be made available via the relegation tournament to those teams who were negatively affected by their actions. Their team will not be eligible to compete in the relegation tournament or placement tournaments this season. In addition to our findings, we have also provided ESEA all of the evidence and information concluded from our investigation and are open to adjusting the ban length per their recommendation. This is a good thing about ESEA now, that people are entering into a partnership with them. And what they're doing is they're basically saying, hey, ESEA, how bad was this? Look, this is the evidence. Do these people need a longer ban or do they need a shorter ban? Should this be a lifetime ban? Should it not? And ESEA are basically taking their cues from real-life sports. Again, if you look in the channel, you can find an interview with the guy, Ian, a sports lawyer, an expert in the area of match fixing and everything around it in sports. He was the founder of ESEA. A great guy, so you should go watch that interview if you have any interest in it. But this is where it gets more interesting for me. Look, I want to just say something. It's probably speaking out of turn. I didn't say it on the podcast. The team was called Really Old People. The game in question was the Really Old People 46-2 match in the MDL Season 28 that took place on the 19th of July, 2018. This is the match that people are saying was the issue that was suspect. Again, I'm looking at some of the names, and as you guys know, I have researched match fixing in Counter-Strike for years. It was a consuming passion of mine to try and weed out the scene and all the people who were doing it in the scene. And unfortunately, there was just no way to do it. It was insurmountable. The iBuyPower was kind of, the tip of the iceberg, if you will. I've said many times, lots of people got away with throwing matches back in the dark old days, around about 2014. And it didn't surprise me, actually, to see some names mentioned here. And I'm just going to flat out say this and just be damned to sort of any consequences. This game that is supposedly suspect here, the 46-2 versus Really Old People, 19th of July 2018 in the MDL Season 28, I notice immediately that, first of all, Hades is playing on Really Old People. Now, Hades was someone who was part of a clandestine betting group called Inner Circle. He operated under the name there, Sade, which, of course, is Hades backwards. I have numerous logs and conversations and screenshots where, at very best, he would share information that he was privy to help bettors, and certainly was active in betting himself. I find it very strange that his name comes up on a team involved with these sort of antics, where incredibly they bet on themselves accordingly to lose, and they coincidentally just happened to lose. But also what I thought was interesting was one of the guys who streamed this game, in fact the only person who did stream this meaningless MDL game, was a guy called Verizon 1G, a low-level Canadian Counter-Strike player. He himself was one of the kingpins, for want of a better word, one of the high-level people, and this is very well documented in public. You can find this quite easily just by Googling his name on ESEA or the CSGO subreddit. He was very active in the Inner Circle, community, if you want to call it that, and was very vocal about wanting to create a tournament that was completely run by bettors, for bettors, where everything was fixed and rigged. There was public screenshots leaked about that, so that's nothing that's come from my sources. That's just out there. That's even on Reddit. So it didn't surprise me at all that this is the game that everybody is saying is incredibly suspect. Now, Sure, maybe it's all one big coincidence. I'll add to this. It says in the ESEA right up there that they don't have enough evidence to take action against the other members of the team. There's probably a very, there's a very good chance they knew what was going on. I'm not saying all of them did. I'm saying there's a high chance that, most of them did. I understand why you might want to be silent right now. I'll tell you, the best thing to do is come clean. It's always come clean. It's always be honest. Learn from the iBuyPower situation. iBuyPower tried to ride it out for 6 months, lied to everyone for 6 months, and basically forced my hand to get Valve involved. Valve did their investigation, which they certainly weren't going to do at the start of the story. It would have been a ban from SIVO, and that would have been the end of it. We wouldn't even think of iBuyPower as this big landmark moment, but they lied and they lied and they lied and they lied until Valve got involved, and then they were permanently banned for life. I would urge these people, if you know anything on the team, definitely come forward, definitely be honest, definitely speak out, because if you don't, people are going to start turning over stones. We know this is probably the tip of a sort of new wave of ESEA betting, because I'm seeing some of the same familiar names back from my investigations in 2014, 2015. I'm probably going to start turning over stones again. I didn't think I would. I didn't think I'd get sucked back in. But just upon seeing this, I immediately started going through all my old files, all my old documents. And yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Why is it still going on? Why can't people just let it be? Why can't people just play the fucking game? Win a season, enjoy some notoriety. Why is it all got to be profit driven? And there are people out there who know the others that have been very vocal on social media. A guy who was very important in the history of the iBuyPower story and everything that happened. Guy called Joe My God. He's been vocal, saying that yes, this is part of another kind of a group of people that are involved. This is not. There's more to this than meets the eye. So look, if you're involved, just speak out. Take the year ban on the chin, take the 2-year ban on the chin, whatever it's going to be. Don't cover for people. Don't cover for people that are habitually doing this. It's not worth it. But anyway, this is the other part of the story. Stronglegs, no stranger to this channel. We've done videos actually sort of helping him out of situations where, people he was working with, bullies, whatever you want to call it, were basically trying to strong arm him, no pun intended, and make him do things he didn't want to do and impact on his career and everything else, and threatening him in a roundabout fashion. We exposed all of that on the channel, and we stood up for him. We stood by him, and I've always found him to be a likable and agreeable guy, but he's absolutely fucked up here. I mean, he's definitely shit the bed in a fashion that I honestly think is probably the end of his high-level commentary career, were he ever going to have one. ESEA's report continues and says, we have also found that the caster Roy Stronglegs and Dul Ahad placed multiple bets on MDL matches within seconds of Savageau's family member, as well as placing a bet on another match the team lost. Two of the matches were also bet on at a later time at significantly lower stakes, roughly 3% of the suspect bets. Although he was not directly involved in the match, ESEA will cease all existing partnerships with him, as this is a conflict of interest. By being an official caster of the league, he has access to administration, systems, processes, and other inside information which would impact his bet choice. Valve set a clear standard by recommending that all event production staff do not bet on matches in their famous blog post, Unnecessary Risks. A ban has also been placed on his account for a gambling violation. We would like to thank GGBet and their staff for the prompt assistance in this case, providing us with information in order to allow us to complete our investigation. We hope that others will follow their example and have a clear, open dialogue with tournament organisers in order to combat the threat of match fixing. So, what can we even say about that part? I think this detail is incredibly important because a lot of people, for very obvious reasons, don't trust ESEA. I get that. They've done multiple things. I am hugely critical of ESEA. I've been there day one. I was the first esports journalist to write a story about the Bitcoin scandal when it blew up, and I contacted all the mainstream journalists and helped get it out there. I covered that case right the way through. I understand, they've done some really heinous stuff. There's just no doubt about it. So I understand why trust levels are low. But look, just to give you some chronology and some understanding here about what's happened, they are saying it is seconds after that bet. And if they're wrong about that, and Stronglegs, I've talked to him privately, he says they are. If they're wrong about that, then that is critical. That's critical to the argument, because I don't think you can make an argument that it's a coincidence if it happens multiple times within seconds of each other. And my belief is that, yes, he was probably in on it and probably told this is the way the bet's going to go, and he went and placed the bet. Because that's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Going back to when people used to sit on Ventrilos and TeamSpeaks, a guy would come in and go, hey, have you heard about this fix? I just got told. And there are a number, again, of American pros, NA pros that are still playing right now that place bets. And we're like, yeah, all right, then, yeah, I'll have a bet on that. If it's definitely a fix, why not? It's free skins, right? So people talk, and that suggests that while he certainly wasn't actively involved in saying, hey, guys, you want to throw a game and we'll all make some money? When he heard about the throw, when he got this information, he just bet on it accordingly. Now, again, he denies this, and he put out a twit longer, which it's a bit melodramatic for me, and it opens up with my heart is sinking into my stomach as I type this, like, literally shaking, right? And he goes, I don't really know what is going on right now. It all feels so surreal, and I'm in a walking dream, and I can't snap out of it. All I know is that I'm caught in a crossfire that I have no involvement with, yet my heart has bullet holes. Again, this no involvement thing seems crazy to me. It goes, am I 100% innocent? No. When I got suspended in July on Twitch and I wasn't able to work with the ESEA either, I was desperate for money, and I decided that I will use my extensive knowledge of MDL to bet and make just enough money to survive and not stress about finances. Since I do prediction sheets for my subscribers anyway, I started betting on many different matches, MDL, random qualifiers, tier 1 matches. I knew that betting on MDL while working for ESEA was wrong, but under my circumstances, I didn't think it would be an issue. There's so much wrong with this. Again, I elaborated on it on By the Numbers. You might not be one of the people who view that podcast. You might just be interested in this kind of stuff. You might just watch my YouTube videos and none of the podcast content. So I'll just briefly reiterate the point here. Not only should you not be placing a bet if you work in the industry, if you're a commentator and you have access to inside information, you absolutely shouldn't be placing bets on the league that you specifically are contracted to work for, even if you were suspended temporarily because you used a naughty word on Twitch. That was the only reason you weren't getting work. They didn't shut down your access to the league, all the processes, protocols that they talked about here in this report. They didn't stop that. You still had access to it all. And crucially as well, you're somebody who is known to all of the players, somebody who plays themselves, and somebody is going to hear things that's going to give you an advantage in the betting marketplace over bettors. I can't believe that even needs to be said. And then on top of that, you then try and say, well, I was doing these betting guides for my subscribers anyway. So you were actively selling inside information in exchange for Twitch subscriptions. This is very bad, my friend. I don't know what else to tell you. That could actually get you banned off Twitch if Twitch would have noticed that. There's ever since the Phantom Lord stuff, there's a lot of squeamishness going on around betting. And just sitting there and saying, oh, hey, if you subscribe, here's some insider information. That is not a good look. That isn't a good look for anybody that wants to be professional in this space and have a career doing it. And look, it's terrible when you're not earning money, and I know how little the average commentator at your level makes. It's a pittance. You have nothing but my sympathies. But this was not the answer to your problems. It goes on to talk about issues, and it says they asked about my recent betting history on the Really Old People versus Vikings and the Really Old People versus that game that I just highlighted there, the 46-2. And it took me a couple of seconds to even remember that bet, since I really started betting regularly once I got suspended from Twitch in July. I knew that ROP wasn't practicing and that Vikings was in an absolute shambles at the time. The odds are pretty good, so I bet on the game for ROP to win. So you admit to using insider information at the very best. At the very best. For ROP versus 462, 462 had turned the season around and the recent pickups were doing outstanding, while at the same time I also knew ROP was absolutely trash on Dust 2. The odds are pretty good too, so I put a bet on that game also. I came clean to Few, Burns, and Bach. These are the ESEA admins. and admit that I did bet on several MTL matches and explain my logic. They started saying that my bets aligned with some suspicious betting behavior that was going on, and that some of the players on RP had bet on and against themselves. That's really old people. Then they say that they don't want to bullshit me, and that the evidence is substantial and it ties me completely to this behavior. They want me to come clean and admit to it. They say that my bets were placed seconds within the accused bets. I was so confused at this point. I was dumbfounded, at a loss for words. I had no idea what to say, because I know that the coincidence looks so fucking awful that nothing I say will clear their suspicions. And again, you see, a coincidence would be once. What are the odds of you having placed these bets on these games involving these teams that these people were also betting on within seconds of them placing the bets? The odds are so astronomical. To even try and stand by it as a coincidence is just monumentally ridiculous to me. And then the rest of the twit longer is the usual, kind of protestations of innocence. What benefit would it be to me? Same thing that we've heard time and time again by people who've been caught cheating and scamming and lying. What benefit would it be to me? Who knows? People very rarely see the bigger picture when they do stuff. At this point, I'm trying to explain to them I have no affiliation with the alleged behavior, but it seems that their minds were already set that I was guilty off the two bets that coincided. I asked for evidence. I keep asking for evidence because even I myself don't believe it. I need to see something concrete, but they haven't provided me with anything. I genuinely don't believe this is happening to me. And then it just goes, I understand the ESEA's actions, got ties with me. I have nothing but respect for them. They have to take measures to uphold the integrity of the brand and the league and the scene as a whole. I'm sorry to everyone I hurt with my actions. I would never dilute the integrity of the league I've spent the last 2 years of my life devoted to. This is all a giant misunderstanding, and I hope it clears up soon. I'm not sure what the next course of action is. I still haven't really digested all of it. So look, what happens next? Well, again, as I said on the podcast, sorry to repeat myself, if ESEA have lied, and those bets were not placed within seconds, or if BetGG have lied, and depending on where the information is coming from, and the bet wasn't placed within seconds, then you need to lawyer up and you need to sue, and don't worry, you'll win. You should be able to get access to that information on the discovery stage, whatever the fuck they want to call it, unless there is a security reason why they wouldn't release it. The reason you're not getting the evidence up front prior to you suing them is probably twofold. First, the information came from BetGG. Obviously, for the integrity of their own systems and security, they can't really just give that information out willy-nilly, show how it all works in the back end and everything else. Secondly, maybe there's substantial other information that comes from ESEA. We've talked about this many, many times. ESEA client is basically a spying device. This is a matter of legal record. If you go and look up the legal documents from the Bitcoin case, it's all there in black and white that they can read. Your Steam chat, go look at the Richard Lewis Show number 60 with Steele on it. It's a 3-hour podcast, and on there, Josh Nissan tells me about how ESEA told him they'd read the chat pertaining to the iBuyPower incident. It's not a secret. The ESEA client has an incredible level of access, so maybe the evidence is coming from there, and as a result, you would understand why ESEA wouldn't want to make a big song and dance saying, well, look, we've actually got a conversation between you two here from this date, because they don't want people to know that's what their client does, for obvious reasons. If Stronglegs has been caught here in what is just all a misunderstanding and an incredible level of coincidence, or some ineptitude or malicious lying has taken place from either of these companies, my heart goes out to him. I know he's not a bad guy, but just to end the video, if you're thinking about being an aspiring commentator, there are lots of things you need to know. The path to success is fraught with pitfalls, perils. It can happen. There's a million ways to fuck up and lose it all. But what is absolutely crucial, what you have to understand, is that you must never, ever, ever place a bet. It's fine if you bet in the past before you were a personality in the scene, you took on these responsibilities. No one's going to hold that against you. It's fine if after you retire, you decide, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe I can play some bets. There is no standard to hold you to. But while you are proactively involved with the space, with the scene, talking to players, going to events, working with leagues, you must stay away from gambling. This is no joke. It might seem like a bit of harmless fun if a team comes and tells you, you'll never guess what, the team we're about to play that were heavy favourites to win, they just told us actually that their in-game lead is sick and they're going to have to use a stand-in or whatever, or they're going to have to play on laptops and we think we're actually going to win, and you then bet on that underdog information. What you've done is you've betrayed the integrity of the league. You have betrayed every other bettor that is also betting in good faith. It's ridiculous. You absolutely have got to stay away from it. I've never placed a bet. Most commentators and talent I know don't bet and haven't placed bets because it's very, very silly to do so. There's an additional factor. You can then skew the odds even more in your favor. Think about this. You get the inside information, you place a bet, then you publicly make a tweet saying, well, you'll never guess what I've heard. These guys are strong favorites, and the odds go longer and longer in your favor. It's so deeply unethical. I can't really believe that now we're still having this type of conversation. And the sad reality is, even if you were able to clear your name and the bets being placed within seconds was a lie or a coincidence or whatever it transpires to be, the reality is you still placed, by your own admission, hundreds of bets using insider information and even sold some of that insider information to people through Twitch. This is career-ending shit. And I'm sorry, my heart goes out to you. Certainly in CSGO. It's not going to happen now. I think Stronglegs would be best served jumping into another game. I strongly recommend PUBG. It's coming up. And take these lessons and learn from them and don't make the same mistakes. That's realistically all you can do. Anyway, that's everything that's been going on there with the ESEA match fixing thing. As I said, I think I'm going to get my box of notes out. It's files this thick. I'm going to get them all out, and I think we're going to have to start turning over some stones again, and perhaps even interviewing some new people, because I can't believe this is still going on, even this far up the food chain. And ESEA and BetGG are having combine efforts to catch people engaged in stuff. It's just sad. It's not good for Counter-Strike. It's just awful that it's still happening. So there you go. Anyway, look, thanks a lot for watching the video. A place you can go and bet ethically, provided you are not a commentator, is rivalry.gg. If you go there and you use the referral code down there, RLS, you'll qualify for up to $350 of VIP benefits. And most importantly of all, it shows them that you're supporting me, and they will continue to support me as a result of that. So it's win-win for all fans of the channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.